Hi, you too. Yeah, it's not picking it up. I don't know. Yeah, it's just not picking it up. It's weird. I don't know. Yeah, it's just not picking it up.
Does it work wireless?
I don't know. This is my first time using it, so.
May have to do it without it.
Yeah. That's weird.
Like an adapter that would allow you to plug it in right here, or is that with the shot?
Maybe. I'm wondering if it's
Did
something.
you change your share screen settings, or do you
Yeah,
have
I
it?
did. It's like not picking up any other display.
Because I know when I did it with the downstairs, I had to share my screen in the settings menu,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
and then you have to almost mirror it so that it stays there and there.
Right. Yeah, and for some reason it's just not picking up this projector. I don't know
Oh,
why.
that's not going to do well. The whole
Yeah.
point is that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think he's gonna. Could you take it over to his laptop
Mm-hmm.
if he can make that work? Do you want to start without that? You don't
Yeah,
have
maybe
to.
I'll-
You don't have to.
I don't want to keep people sitting there too long.
No, and I don't want to. I don't want to mess with your stuff.
Yeah, mess with it. Go ahead. You can mess with it. Jay can't get it to work. If you can get it to work, go for it.
Or Paul too. What, honey? What? Yeah, for some reason it's not recognizing. Do you want to play with it? With the settings?
My glasses.
Oh, no glasses?
I don't have my glasses, so I can't see.
You don't have them here?
Yeah, they're on the thing.
Where's your glasses?
I'm not sure. I think he ducked into his office.
Not used to this.
Can you even see the mouse? Yeah, well, that's not the connection problem. Oh, he did get
Do you have a
his.
different one?
Right.
Oh, it's a different projector?
That might help.
Why were you messing with the Wi-Fi, honey?
That's
Because I thought you said it was a Wi-Fi. And then you said it was a Wi-Fi.
a reliable one.
It's the ported to there. All right. Oh, what do you mean? Test. Oh, well, I guess that's working fine.
You don't have to be all that close to the thing.
Okay. Step back.
I'll be able to leave direction if you want to just talk in while we're considering this up. If you get it to work or not.
Yep.
You want me to just start?
I think so.
I only have like a 2 or 3 minute intro.
Well, we'll see if we can get this PowerPoint to work or not. But I thought we'd get started and then we can work on it in the meantime. But this is Jake and Topher. I'll let them say more about themselves in a moment. But just a little bit of background. They reached out to us last fall sometime. Tom and I met with them and just kind of had an initial conversation and have just been exploring what what might be possible. And today is a listening session. So as I said, if you saw my email, today is not a time where we're going to make a decision, but we want to hear what they have to say and ask any questions, raise any concerns we might have. And so with that in mind, maybe I'll let you get started and
Sure.
see if I can fix this.
Hello. Good morning. So thanks for coming after service today. We want to say thanks to Andy for kind of shepherding this process for us. And, I would like to invite you over to the space afterwards. We have a lot of donuts, so please come. I can't take those home. My wife will be very angry if I eat them all. And coffee and drinks. And so my name is Topher Christensen. As Andy said, I'm from the east side here. I grew up at the end of Baldwin Street. I spent a lot of time riding my bike down through this neighborhood, grabbing fishing tackle at Bob's Rod and Reel. My dad had an office where those condos are going up right now, so I have a long history in this neighborhood and in Madison. Can you get that mic a little closer? Sure. Maybe I'll just, how about that? Better? All right. Ooh. Okay. So Madison was a great place for a middle-class white kid like me to grow up. I went to East High School. I did a lot of sports and studied, and I figured out in high school that I really liked music, and I started a band, and we played around town, and we'd go and we'd check out shows down at the university, at the Rascal, or at the Terrace, and so after high school, I moved to Washington, D.C. to go to college, and I went to American University, and I studied, and I also got involved with the local music scene there, and I went and saw all sorts of different types of music, and I became friends with musicians and kids in college who were into music. And the really cool thing about DC was that it was all sorts of different races of people at the shows, in the bands. I had friends who were black, I had friends who were white, and that was kind of normal. And when I kind of reflected on my childhood growing up here, it wasn't so normal in Madison. You would go to a show, and you still go to shows, and you look around, and while Madison has a lot of diversity now, and 60% of the kids in the schools are minorities, if you go to a show or a play or a concert and you look around yourself, it's mostly white people. And that's just really how it is in Madison. And being in the music industry, and Jake and I, we kind of would like to try to change that dynamic if possible. And that's kind of what we're striving to do with this space across the street. It is going to be a for-profit business. It is going to be an events space for music and comedy and performing arts and weddings and private events. But our hope is to kind of create a space that's inclusive, that invites people from all the communities of Madison to participate in live music and to feel more comfortable coming to shows, and so that it becomes more normal for people in our community and more normal for people like us to see other people at shows and create more of an inviting community within music. So we think, can an events venue serve a greater purpose? We think it can. And so some of the things that we plan on doing with our venue is to donate tickets to area partners and schools to distribute to every concert that we book. Currently, we are creating a program with the Goodman Center Loft program called the Students of Live Music, which will be a 10-week after-school program that brings kids into the venue and teaches them about the live music industry and exposes them to all aspects of live music, from production to marketing, so that they understand what we do and they feel comfortable coming into a venue like we hope to have. We also hope to create a mentorship program for high school age kids to come in and shadow our employees, so they also understand, and get firsthand experience really how live music works. And we also want to be a community asset. We don't just want to be a business that stands there. We would like to open up our doors to nonprofits, student music groups, area organizations that need space for benefits and fundraisers at least once a week to come in and use our space for free. So those are some of the initiatives we have with the space. And so once we secured the building, one of the first people we reached out to was Pastor Andy, because we knew that there would be some concerns with parking and traffic and people, and we didn't want to hamper the church or anyone in the neighborhood. We wanted to be a neighborhood asset, and we wanted to be a good neighbor. And that's kind of where we are today. We sent Andy and you all a few proposals, which we refined based on the last listening session, and that kind of brings us to where we are here today. So I will let Jake talk about the meat and potatoes of the parking, And then, did we get that to work or no?
No, unfortunately.
We can email you out the PowerPoint,
Yeah,
you know,
we
so
will.
you can look at it. There's some cool pictures and of the parking lots, and
Yeah.
we can really just talk about our plan, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jake Dehaven. Like Topher, I was raised in Madison and have been a part of the music community peripherally through my family for a couple generations, and really excited to be here and talk to you guys. We're working on a project across the street, as Topher alluded to, and we currently run a music venue down the road called the Burr Oak. And I guess Topher really summarized the plan or the vision for across the street, so I can really just jump right into the parking concept. So it started last fall, as Pastor Andy mentioned earlier, where we had a discussion just thinking if there was maybe a shared parking agreement that we could work out, just wanting to, as we bring more people into the downtown and as this downtown evolves and grows and more density surrounds us, you know, how do we solve this parking issue? And it kind of evolved. The first time we looked at the lot, we kind of got a full scope of the work that would need to be put in to make the lot at First Street up to the public safety standards. And so that really spurred this whole idea about potentially having a parking arm controlled situation to help monetize the parking lot, to secure the funds, to get the investment to bring the lot up to public safety standards. And so the original idea that we talked about a couple weeks ago with a smaller group across the street was we would just completely renovate that lot and redo all the asphalt, rip it all out and regrade it, put in tree islands with bioinfiltration, install new site lighting, install new cameras, install a 6-foot-tall fence along the residential side to block any headlights that would turn into those lots, and then potentially do some bike parking and some signage and just general landscaping. And then it came to, through the discussion a couple weeks ago, we realized, okay, well, how does that put the lot on Winnebago and Atwood here? What sort of a position does that put that in? And obviously, if there's a controlled lot a block and a half away, does that mean that more and more people are going to park in your lot right here? And so there were some ideas from those members that we talked to that maybe we control this lot right off the church as well and come up with a solution where all members of the church have a validation option, and there's multiple options with the validation, but what that concept, when we still would do the full renovation of the First Street lot, but the concept of controlling this lot, which is in much better shape and probably wouldn't need as much initial investment, is that then the churchgoers have complete priority over all of the parking lots. So we worked out with Pastor Andy a validation program, and there's multiple different options with the technology that we're looking at. There's little kiosks where members can just go to a place within the church and validate their parking ticket there without any sort of interaction with an office staff. There's also, I'm sure you guys have seen them downtown, little stickers that an office staff could hand out to people, and they would just put that on their parking ticket, and then it would be free parking. And there's also little like credit cards that can be printed for $2 or $3 that give you perpetual validation for use of both of the lots. So what this really kind of has evolved to today is a parking proposal where, again, we would redo the entire First Street lot, install the arms, and do all the renovations I mentioned earlier. And then here on the Winnebago Street lot, we would install egress and enter lane with a controlled gate in this lot, and then mostly just seal and stripe and redo the kind of surface of this lot, install cameras on this lot, and then do some signage, I think was the, yeah. And there's, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to,
Yeah.
because I think there might be some qualms raised already, and part of this, that this package is also going to have the gates up for church, so that you
Yep.
don't have to always use a card to get in.
Yep.
Church events, it's not an issue.
Exactly. Yeah, and all of those details, we really hope to learn more today about what, because the technology has really infinite amount of flexibility in how we want to use it, and it's primarily about how you guys want to use the technology. I think the benefit that we can present to this group is these lots, as the downtown creeps this direction, these lots are going to have to be controlled either with somebody managing it and calling a tow truck service provider, or these arms where we can set up a system with the church to really alleviate it, where there's not a bunch of, when the public market goes in, there's not a bunch of Saturday and Sunday parkers in these lots, because it's obviously controlled by the gates. So yeah, anything like that, a detail where we can just open them up from 8 a.m. to noon on Sunday, that's more than doable. Mm-hmm.
Those are details where we will have to work out, because
Yep.
people will, if they go up at 8, people come up for breakfast will come in there and fill it up. But hopefully then what won't happen anymore, you guys, is the people who park in our lot over here that live in the neighborhood that just park there and their guests park there. That won't happen anymore, because they're not going to park there because it's not free anymore, or the gates are going to be closed and they can't get in.
Right.
Because we came to church for Lent, and 3/4 of the parking lot was full before anybody from church actually got here.
Right.
And this potentially would eliminate most or all of that.
Right.
Well, the other thing is we can have an usher out there too, to let people in for church if people are free.
I'm not sitting out there.
I wouldn't mind it once in a while.
I know I'm getting
Yeah.
ahead of your question.
Sure, no, go.
I'm sure that the other part of that is, for the people that do park overnight, when we have the arms up, they pay. So we're
Right.
not here overnight,
Mm-hmm.
but they put some money in to park in our lot instead of having it sit empty. And we'll be getting that money back. So there's that other advantage for us,
Mm-hmm.
for both lots.
The groups that use the church, I represent one of those.
Yeah.
They will have access to these codes then, so they can continue using the parking lots.
Yeah.
So we have the validation options. So on your, I think it's, what is it, Monday nights? And when you have AA and you have practice, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and you can validate any night of the week. So
Yeah.
whether you have access to the back end of the online parking system, or we have a parking validation kiosk here, you can validate whenever you want, and that's part of the proposal.
So, go ahead.
Why did you pick this site, and where is, it sounds like it's a lot of money. Where are you guys, is there some foundation that's supporting
Sure.
Sure.
So when you're looking for a music venue, you have two options. You take an existing building or you build from scratch, right? So when you have a music venue, you need a space like this where there's no columns, it's open space. And if you want to come over afterwards, you'll see why we really like this building. It is an open space. It is a good location for us. It's very close to our other music venue. It's very close to the Barrymore. We kind of see this area becoming an arts district. And so we're really excited about the location of this particular building. For us, it's a combination of our own money and a loan from the bank down the street. And that's where the money's coming from.
Yep.
Terry, one of the things they talked about too when we met with them was they would be selling tickets to park with the tickets to the show.
Right, so we can
And so
pre-sell
that's
parking.
what they're hoping will also help to pay for the parking lot. So if you buy your tickets for a show, you also have the option to buy whatever the price is determined to be for tickets.
Yes, we can pre-sell parking as well. Yep.
Right.
And that way they can control how many are sold. If there's a dual activity at the church that day, they can reserve enough over here for us and only sell what we determine to be the overage, whether it's 2 places,
Correct.
5 or 10.
Yep. And we have additional copies of the proposal if you want to take those with you and read. Yes? Sure.
Yep,
Totally.
I like that system too, yeah.
The building was open to the public would have a way to get validated.
Yep.
Yep, and we can do that through this technology. Yep.
One of the things we tried in Conway,
Some members can't hear a word anybody's saying. Would you mind getting back? If you're not just gonna make a brief statement, I think we should have you back on mic so that everybody can hear.
Yep. That's smart.
I'll make sure the mic's turned up.
Do a test. Is it on?
It sounded like it.
is it on? Is it on?
I'll turn it up.
Am I on?
Or there's just good.
So I'll just talk louder with my mask off. I really appreciate the idea of an internal kiosk for, well, now it's on. Yes, it is on. Okay. I don't know if this is such an important point, but I really appreciate this idea of an internal kiosk, because finding a staff person to validate your parking if you're a visitor is very complicated. But if you've got business in the church and we happen to be open, we want to be open so that people can take a ticket as they find a parking space. But then if they've got business inside, they can come in and they can not have to pay for parking because they've got this validation kiosk. Yep. So I am more interested in that as a solution for how we remain open to the public without having our parking lot be a community parking lot. Mm-hmm. It would still be a church parking lot.
Yeah.
So you might as well give up on this presentation that you have here, because of course we've not satisfied.
No, I think we've kind of summarized what we need to summarize.
We can't hear you.
You gotta come in,
Okay.
or maybe we can.
So I think it's important to stress there are a couple things. A, there's a lot we can do with these systems and B, church will have priority. Funerals, weddings, those sorts of things. Church gets priority for parking for church business. So we don't have to worry about fighting with them or anybody else if we have a memorial service or whatever. But we have to figure out how to do it, but it's not hard.
Well,
There.
and I think that's what's great about the technology that we're using. We can block off every single parking space if we know you have a wedding or a funeral so that no one can enter the lot at those certain times. So that's why we like the Easy Park solution, and we think it will work both for you and for us and kind of solve some of the parking issues that we have seen here. So.
Can you go through what your hours of business are going to be, or anticipated events, like the lead up to a show, the post, and will anybody sweep the parking lots afterwards for any damage or anything like that?
Sure. So I'd say a show day usually starts around noon to 2, depending on when the band arrives. We load the band in. We get them set up, we sound check. We typically will do doors for the general public around 7 o'clock. Show will start at 8 o'clock. Depending on the band, it could run to 9:30, it could run to 11, and that's pretty much as late as our shows will go. After that, the general public will leave and we'll load the band out, and they'll probably be out and gone by about midnight. Yes?
But the band is not parking in our lot.
No, the band won't park in your lot. So the general public will be gone out of the lot by 11:30. We have staff on, and yeah, we can sweep the lots for sure. Yeah, we can do that. And we have cameras too, so we can sit in our office and look on the cameras and see if there's anyone in either lot, so for sure.
Sorry, I'm short. My name is Dina, and I work in the office. I just have, some of my questions have already been answered, so thank you, everybody. I just have a couple other things, and I hope I'm not getting into too much detail, because I know some of this is all going to be worked out. But as you might guess, I'm the person who handles the details currently. When people call to ask if they can meet here or park here, I'm the person they go through. So I am thinking ahead about details. One question I have, and I'm sure that this has been discussed, but I'd like it clarified. When you say church office staff would receive a parking proxy card, who determines who's staff? And does that apply to, we currently have many people who aren't staff who have keys to the building because they have to be here at various times. Are they covered by the proxy card scenario, or are they covered by the pick up a ticket and validate it when you leave?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really for you to decide, not for
Yes.
us to decide. So
Okay.
you tell us who you think needs to have those cards, and if we have the kiosk here and in the church as well, if it's someone that's only here once or twice a week, they could always validate that way, so.
Okay. My other question is about evening events and the special events that are in this proposal are especially covering Monday and Thursday nights and weddings and funerals. I'm starting to understand that those aren't the only scenarios that you're talking about, but I'm thinking about what if somebody calls us and requests a room for a meeting. Do we have to clear it with you if it's an evening event?
You don't have to clear anything with us, but if we're managing the parking software and you know you're gonna need 10 spots, you should, reach out to us and say, hey, we have this event, can you hold 10 spots or 15 spots or whatever it is? So there will have to be communication between us and you to make sure the inventory is on hold for you when you need it.
Okay. Kiosks. Under the parking lot lease terms, you propose a yearly triple net lease. Can you explain what that means, please?
You want that one?
Yeah, so essentially, we'll pay for everything associated with that lot. So if there are property taxes that are incurred from this monetization of the lot, then we would pay for that. We would pay for any utility costs of that lot if there's a water bill. So triple net lease basically means we pay you this amount of money and you don't have any other expenses associated with that lot. It's a little bit more complicated with the Winnebago lot, how this integrates into it because of, I don't know how the CSM is determined with this property versus the parking lot. If they're two separate lots, that's easier, but triple net just basically means we assume all of the financial responsibility for that lot.
And you have insurance.
Yep, and we would have a business insurance with liability coverage and, yep,
Okay, so it sounds like we're owners in name only.
right.
Is that a benefit to us?
Well, it's a lease.
Yeah,
It's just a lease.
yeah,
Own the property.
yep.
Okay.
Part of that is to do with property taxes, because and I got some advice from Wegner CPA about having a straight-up rental agreement is easier for us than, like if we were monetizing anything, we would have to pay unrelated business income tax. We would be liable for property tax and things like that. So the triple net lease is to say, we're just renting, and then they have to deal with the expenses, yeah.
Okay, now my other question is about daytime parking. It sounds like we have a lot of freedom there. However, if somebody calls to use a room and say it's a regularly recurring or a long-term thing, you are naming yourself as the point of contact for long-term parking inquiries. So if somebody calls here and they want to use a room, do we have to tell them they need to arrange parking separately through you? It seems like an extra step, and it seems like it's going to mean lots more phone
Yeah,
calls for
when
me.
we wrote in the long-term parking, I think you have some long-term agreements in the North First Street lot with people who have trailers and big trucks. And so that's where that was referring to.
Okay.
Those long-term kind of commitments that you have, we're happy to take those over so that you don't have to deal with them.
Okay.
Back to your question about meetings, again, it's just about the inventory. So if you do have a meeting, we would need to communicate, and you would say, hey, Topher, I have a meeting Wednesdays from 10 to 12. I need 6 spots. Then we put it on hold, and you have those 6 spots. So it's just, again, communication between the two of us so that we make sure we're meeting your needs.
Okay. Okay. You say you're going to pay for all the legal fees incurred, but you name the law firm that you will use. That means you get to choose the lawyer?
That was
Are we
the-
going to have the lease
You can choose whoever you
reviewed
want.
by
yeah.
our own attorney?
That was the
That was
attorney
that was
Andy
a
had brought
law
up.
firm I recommended, so, yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't,
Yeah.
we would get to choose, we wouldn't have
Yep.
to use them, that was just one that I got,
Okay.
made a contact with.
So
Yep.
that was chosen by, okay. I think that's it for now, thank you.
Great.
I have one comment and one question, and the comment is, in terms of access, one thing that I think is really helpful is that we will have an override here at church if we need to raise those gates for some reason in a hurry. That's what we talked about anyway,
Yeah,
having an
you
override.
have access to the online parking program at your office. You'll have a login, and if you need to go in and do something, you have complete control and access to do that. Yes.
Okay. My question is, will you also be taking over the snow removal?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes! That's, okay.
Yes.
Not, it's
Just the lot.
lot.
Just the lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
lots.
Yep.
One more question. About the First Street lot redo, has this been run by the city planning and DNR and everybody about, does it clear requirements for stormwater runoff and retention and all that? Is
Yeah.
it an okay plan?
Yeah, informally it has. We did work with the city planner on the schematic design, but we haven't done any formal submissions to the city. So the feedback that we got originally is 4 of the tree islands, the square footage that makes up of those 4 tree islands would be enough square footage to account for a bioinfiltration stormwater management plan. And so essentially we'll just kind of sump all of our drainage to those 4 islands and then plant hardy plants that can basically eat out whatever is coming from the lot. So that's what, and I'm 95% certain that that's going to be approved.
Okay.
So.
And there's nothing they can do that would be worse than what we have right now. It all goes on the property, there's no retention.
Yep. Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, I guess the alternative, so the zoning classification of the property is a TSS, which is a street storefront, so there's no parking minimums for those buildings. So all the buildings around here have 0 parking minimums. So technically, from a zoning standpoint, we don't need any parking. We obviously know functionally that's not really a great solution. So yeah, we'd have to think hard about how this works if you do say no. Yeah.
We have a course that meets regularly here every other week on a Tuesday night of about 30 people. So would we have to have that on your schedule? That we need that much parking every other week on a Tuesday
I
night?
think if it's every Tuesday, I mean, it's, again, the communication will just hold the spots you need every Tuesday in the slot so that they're there for you. Yeah.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how many people do you expect to come to these events?
So the configuration of our shows will vary. It will range from about 250 people for a wedding A fully seated show will be 350 people, and then a fully standing show will be 700 people. So that's a sold-out show. So granted, you don't usually sell out all your shows. So typically, we're seeing about 75% capacity at our other venue. So figure 75% is generally what shows up, but occasionally there will be a sold-out show.
How many parking lots are available?
So with the 2 lots, there's a little bit over 100 stalls. So that makes up more than 10% of our theater. So the general rule of thumb is 10% of your capacity you want to accommodate with a vehicle space. So we're over that. And yeah, so it would be a really ideal situation for us in terms of the ratio.
I just wanted to go back to the beginning of your presentation where you talked about our initial conversations. Initially you were focused on just the First Street lot. And the more we talked, the more we realized that if we worked out an arrangement with you to control the parking in the First Street lot, that we would just be pressing people into the lot next to the church. So this controlled parking solution in the parking lot right next to the church is really, I think, an enhancement to your original proposal. So you were thinking that you probably could get all of the parking you need for your events out of the First Street lot, but we were interested in having you enhance your proposal by controlling the parking up here. So that being said, what I'm thinking is most of our events, except for I think possibly the unusual event or AA, we use the lot next to the church for the most part, and we underutilize the First Street lot.
Right.
If you guys run a successful venue, your parking is going to be focused on the First Street lot, and so that should leave capacity for us to continue to meet our needs through this, what you're describing. But I just wanted to go back to, First Street was really your focus when you first came to us.
Yeah, I think the reason why we incorporated the Winnebago Street lot into the latest proposal was based on your comments from the listening session and making sure that that lot is at your disposal whenever you need it and you have no issues with our clientele at all. So, yeah, totally.
And so when you do have an event, you're directing people over there.
Yeah.
Because you could have an event going on and we could say, we need all of this parking because this is,
Yeah, we can message to customers very easily through emails, and when they buy a ticket, please use the First Street lot. So that's something we definitely would do.
And one other thing that I think is really important to work out between our collaboration is if there's ever an event where you think you'll need more than the Winnebago lot and you need to go use the First Street, that's going to be important for us to know, because we have a capability with this software to sell parking spaces as we sell tickets for shows. And so our thought was we only sell the First Street lot. We never sell online the Winnebago lot, and that's just kind of the surge parking. And then when we work out certain inventories on certain nights with the church, we'll block off, say, 30 lots. 30 lots, 30 spaces here, and if there's 10 spaces that we could potentially sell in the Winnebago lot, that's great. But yeah, that's just a fine point, but that's our thought right now.
If we agree to all of this, when does the construction begin, and when would all of this begin for us?
Yeah, so our plan or our general timeline for the build out of the Atwood Music Hall would be probably fall through winter.
Yeah, we hope to open early next year.
Yeah.
That's our hope.
And so with that being said, we obviously want the parking in place, so I would imagine that this renovation would want to happen before the asphalt plants close. So I would imagine if this all goes through, late summer, early fall would be a time when we could see this project go through.
However, that being said, the disruption to us would be very minimal, I'm thinking, because what needs to be done to the Winnebago lot is fairly minimal. We don't have to tear up the asphalt or take down the lights or any of that. It's just installing electricity and maybe closing off the Atwood side, maybe.
Yep, yep.
So people, yeah. So, and then, so we will still have room to park
Oh, yeah,
through that. It's-
definitely.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Definitely. So one thing just on that, there might be sort of a phased coordination with doing this Winnebago lot, where, say, if we have 2 points of entrance into the lot, and we're doing the gate construction, we might obviously only have 1 point of entrance for, say, a week for the concrete to cure, and then we might shift, if we do want to close off the Atwood side, you know, then once everything's cured on that Winnebago entrance, then we would go, say, a week or 2 later and do the construction on the other side. So there might be some coordination and some, like, scheduling to iron out, but.
I just want to thank you guys for the careful listening, because I've been at a couple of the chat about sessions as it was first presented to the council, and then we opened the chat groups up to more people. And I think you've really heard a lot of the concerns that we initially had. And I know someone mentioned a code to punch in, and they agreed with me, because I had an experience of, I came home one time and my kid was watching a movie on TV, and I knew we didn't have cable or anything like that, and I said, how are you getting this in? And she said, oh, I've got so-and-so's code. I said, what? And she said, and it's a girl from the neighborhood over here. They all went to, what's the middle school over there together? And this girl had her aunt's code to watch movies, and she gave it to her crew of about half a dozen girls. So they were all watching movies on someone else's account because they were free once you had the code.
Right.
And so I just had visions of us having a code for the parking lot. And of course, if any of you are like me, the only way you'd remember it is to put it on your keychain, and then your kid borrows the car, and half of East High School has the key code. Because that's how kids seem to do things. They share it if it's good. Right. And I had visions of us having a lot of, you know, breakfast people in our parking lot on Sunday morning, which is already an issue. And so I think the other aspect that I appreciate is that Pastor Andy won't get the calls that the parking lot is full and so across the street is parking there. Will you talk to him? Because that's not a fun conversation to have if any of you have had to have those with someone intruding. So it kind of, by putting it into a money mechanism, parking is cheap most of the time, but at valuable times it becomes more expensive. People kind of catch on when it hits their pocketbook. And so it kind of takes it out of the get mad at Trinity for not sharing their parking. And what will happen if we don't agree to it? No skin off their nose, because everybody will just go park there for free anyway. And everybody that hooks up at the concert will just leave their car over there Saturday night. So we'll come Sunday morning and there won't be any parking.
Yeah.
And that's not really their problem, because we don't have a mechanism to collect money at the gate. You know, if we still had, I don't know, an active youth group, maybe we could convince those kids to hang out there for collecting $20 is for the next youth convention, but we don't. And I really don't want to stand out there on a Saturday night and collect $20 a head for pulling into the parking place.
Yeah.
So I think making it mechanical kind of takes it, it makes it less emotional. It makes it, the mechanics take care of it.
Easier to manage, yep.
Just my opinion.
Yep, thank you.
I'll never get marked code again.
The other thing with this too is, we're definitely, the city's gonna be blocking off this side of the parking entrance anyway, because they're gonna want the street parking. So we're gonna go down to one entrance in and out of this lot anyway, so people won't be able to use it as a thoroughfare, which would be nice. So not only would it be gated, but we don't have to worry about people using it.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of the future street redesign out there.
I just have an impulsive thought, organist and music director, so I leave at a lot of odd times, like Saturday night when I'm practicing or Friday night. And yeah, definitely, if you're not around on the weekends, there's tons of people from the restaurants, you see them coming in. And I guess I'm saying, echoing what Kathy said, it's really nice that you're considerate enough to listen, because I see a lot of these people parking and then they go across the street to Mint Mark and they go to Bar Corallini and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So I guess, thank you for that, for being so considerate to not just assume that there's free parking here in the off hours like a lot of our business associates around here are doing. I guess my thought would be, if this goes through, will there be a heads up to all these places? Or has anyone from Trinity even spoken to all these people and said, hey, those signs that say it's private and your patrons all ignore it? I mean, a lot of people, because there is a parking shortage on this side of town, now with the influx of more apartment buildings and their friends and visitors coming, how are we going to handle, I think this is a great solution for your business. I guess I'm asking Trinity too, have you thought about how we're going to handle the fact that the whole neighborhood wants to use these parking lots? And maybe you already have explained how that would work. But will they wouldn't hurt to tell the owners of these businesses too, that, hey, in the future, you won't be able to have free parking just for your patrons. You'll have to warn them. I don't know.
Yep.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so we really haven't reached out to any local neighbor businesses before we really solidified a relationship with Trinity. So yeah, that would be kind of first on the docket for...
Yeah, I mean, our priority was to make sure that we were doing this the right way and that we are good neighbors and that, we make friends and not enemies. And so we haven't talked to anyone. We really wanted to figure out this relationship. And, after you vote, whether it's a yes or a no, we will then be reaching out to other area businesses to let them know what we're up to, and the neighborhood associations and things like that, so.
Things are, getting up, Jill, to ask a question?
I was thinking about what Wendy said, and we want to be good neighbors and stewards like you guys are doing to us. Obviously, they're putting the money into it, they're organizing this, being good neighbors with us. But to Wendy's point too, with that First Street parking lot, and you talk about the market that's going down there, if nothing else is going on that day, with the way that the automatic arm is, I would think that anybody could use it if there was availability and opening.
Yep.
So we're actually being good neighbors to all our friends in the neighborhood. We're opening opportunities for them so that when they go to the restaurant across the street, if nothing's going on with you, nothing's going on with us, the First Street, all they have to do is pay to go in.
Right.
Yep.
So I think, to your point, when they're ready to tell the rest of the neighborhood, we're being good neighbors. They church has priority first, especially with this lot. You guys put the time and energy, so you have priorities for your events, but your events don't go 24/7. I just don't see where it's not a win-win for the neighborhood. I never thought about that, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Donut time? Donut time?
Donut time?
Yeah, donut time?
Donut time.
Donut time.
So yeah, thank you all for sticking around. If you are interested in seeing the space across the street, Topher and Jake are going to open it up, and they've got some treats over there too. So you're welcome to depart or head to that. But thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.